Hey everyone, Janota here. With the release of Pikmin 4, discussion about the lore behind Pikmin has been thrown around so much that it's been hard to keep track of. While a lot of it can be easily solved with the original trilogy, Pikmin 4 introduced a bunch of inconsistencies and questions to the franchise, but thankfully a lot of it has just been answered. When the Pikmin 4 demo released, the Japanese-only website Pikmin Garden was created, featuring a now-concluded manga and character IDs. Arguably, the most important feature of this website was a series of pretty detailed reports, written in-universe by one of the castaways, Chet. Since Pikmin 4's release, new reports have been added, with the 10th report ending the series about 10 days ago. Today, I want to review these reports and point out all the connections as to how it expands the lore behind Pikmin. Right off the bat, the logs on the Pikmin Garden website seem to follow two different ideas about the Pikmin timeline, both that all four mainline games did in fact happen in sequential order, or that they've all been kind of mashed together and that's the plot of Pikmin 4. Pikmin 4's place in the timeline has been messy as we can't say for sure whether or not this is a sequel, a prequel, or even a reboot. In the first log, Chet writes that Olimar crashed while he was on vacation, and the Capaites probe to search for fruit found the planet shortly after. This led both the Capaites and the Rescue Corps to come to PNF 404, where they all ended up crashing on the planet as well. Answers regarding the Pikmin timeline as a whole are kinda brushed off for the rest of the logs, which is a bit disappointing. The rest of the log goes over details about PNF 404, such as its climate and the existence of a previous civilization. The second log is all about Pikmin, and it goes over the concept of how they function, how wild Pikmin came to be, and it also looks at stranger species of Pikmin such as Puffmin and Bulbmin. I remember when this page was revealed before Pikmin 4 released and seeing people hope that this was a hint of them returning, myself included. Unfortunately, this didn't happen, but some acknowledgement is better than nothing, I guess. The third log goes over onions and once again seems to mess with the timeline. The log is plastered with images of onions from all four mainline games, yet it still won't answer whether or not they happened. The log also suggests the idea that multiple onions can exist for the same Pikmin type and can vary between different shapes and sizes. I've always liked this idea since it makes sense given that throughout Pikmin 4 you can find multiple yellow and blue onions, as well as extra onions that will show up during the final cutscene. The fourth log is all about treasures, and we even get a second opinion from Schnauz, the treasure appraiser you save in Pikmin 4. Not only that, but we even get some treasure descriptions from the Hocotate ship's AI from Pikmin 2. In-game, Schnauz was described to have been part of the creation of a treasure appraising AI, which was hinted to be the Hocotate ship. But in this log, however, they share differing opinions, with Schnauz having a more positive look on these treasures than the Hocotate ship. The fifth log goes over the history of space dogs. It mostly just talks about the features that Ochi is equipped with, but it does have some funny details, such as there apparently being a job for space dogs called a space dog taxi. The log also brings in Moss, and Shepard gives a very interesting idea that suggests that Ochi and Moss may be related in some way, as Ochi is a descendant of a space dog that has similar ears to Moss. Chet leaves off this log by expressing how interesting it is that Ochi and Moss are similar, yet their type of species have never been in the same star system as each other. Not only that, but Chet hopes that this connection between the two space dogs might lead to a greater connection between the human-like characters that populate space and PNF 404. The sixth log covers the various ships seen throughout the franchise. There are some more funny details, such as a drawing on the SS Drake being based on a doodle presumably made by Alph, the fact that the Hocotate ship pod is foul-mouthed, and that the probe that the Capaites used to find PNF 404 was their 713th. So, rest in peace the first 712 probes. The log mentions the little landing sites and how they've been constantly changing over time, suggesting the weird warping of time on this planet, but that's a story for a later log. The seventh log delves into caves, and right off the bat brings up that time passes slower underground. The real kicker here is that Chet, a person who exists in-universe with the other playable and non-playable characters, actually acknowledges the fact that caves can and will change their layouts when revisited, at least in Pikmin 2. Even Louis doesn't seem fazed as he's aware that the things you'll find in the caves will stay the same. The other real kicker is that the Water Wraith and Plasma Wraith are also nicknamed Umibozu in-universe as a reference to Japanese folklore. Of course, the Umibozu theory for Pikmin has been popular for a long time, so it's nice to see some acknowledgement by Nintendo. The log also mentions that in Pikmin 4, cave entrances and exits will switch around depending on how they were entered. While this is how they are in-game, they don't really make much sense as when you enter through the other end and select the furthest sublevel, you can actually keep going down, but it will just take you back up a floor, which really does not make any sense. To be fair, if time slows down underground, then I guess gravity wouldn't matter as much either. Some screenshots were thrown in showcasing the industrial maze, but filled with way more treasures than even Louis, which made people including me think that this was a hint at Pikmin 4 DLC. What the hell, Nintendo? The 8th log goes over the spacesuits worn by various characters, and I like the idea that spacesuits are just something sold by an interstellar federation that come equipped with the right uses to keep yourself safe, such as a whistle, lights, and a hibernation mode. Puddle, the stylist you rescue in Pikmin 4, also notes that Olimar and Louie's suits from the company are cheap, while the president's suit is apparently quote-unquote sophisticated. The log confirms that Olimar and Louie's suits are also only able to support them for 30 days, like in Pikmin 1. But supposedly in Pikmin 4, Louie was able to survive for even longer, and how he did it was still a mystery. The 9th log confirms that there is in fact a Star Alliance, and reaffirms plenty of info we knew about Hokatations and Kapayats. Not only that, but apparently all human-like beings in these various planets are very similar in height, with the only ones being different is whatever used to live on PNF 404. Chet writes that the ancestors of Shepard were from a planet abundant with water and nature, yet they have a strange feeling of nostalgia while they were stranded. And right here, some mystery begins regarding the theory that maybe the characters we've been following throughout the franchise may have been descendants of humans from Earth. These humans branched out to other planets and eventually lost contact, leaving Earth alone to become PNF 404. Okay, let's pause here for a bit. A little crazy info dump right here at the end to leave us theorizing. Now this is the 9th log out of 10, with each log releasing roughly 1 month after each other following the release of Pikmin 4's demo. But that's the thing, the 9th log came out in May. We just got the final log 10 days ago. It's been 3 months. Surprisingly, I haven't been able to find too much discussion in the Pikmin community regarding these logs since Pikmin 4 came out, so I was surprised when some people were mentioning that they finally just put the 10th log out. Once I found out though, I went straight to the website, read the whole log, and then immediately wrote this script. The 10th log starts with Chet finally trying to reach some conclusions using the information he's assessed over the previous logs. Surprisingly, there is a little spoiler warning. Probably should have mentioned a spoiler warning myself in this video. In the first topic, Chet mentions that the ships that are capable of escaping the planet can and most of the time will crash down on the planet, whereas smaller ships that can't escape the planet on their own will be able to land just fine. Chet suggests that there may be some mysterious force that tries to keep people on the planet. The second topic revolves around the mystery of the previous civilization and where they disappeared to. It's mentioned that many objects found on PNF 404 are very similar to those found on other planets, with the main difference being that they are much bigger on PNF 404. Chet writes that Shepard's ancestors of their planet Gaia had originated from a beautiful blue planet. While this might just be hypothetical, Chet theorizes that PNF 404 may have been home to the race of human-like characters that we control and interact throughout the franchise, and that the constant crashing is just the natural force of bringing them back home to Earth. The third topic once again covers how time works on this planet, but also explains that the continents on PNF 404 have moved very quickly due to large crust movements. Chet also theorizes how the planet changes every time someone crashes and is stranded on it, almost as if the planet has a will of its own. Not only that, but the Pikmin themselves are always conveniently waiting nearby, almost like they were expecting people to crash, suggesting that the Pikmin might also want the captains to stay, as they'll have a competent leader to help them survive. We also get some interesting lore dumps regarding the wraiths. Apparently when Olimar was captured by the Plasm Wraith, he kept dreaming about larger humans living alongside Pikmin and other wildlife. Could you imagine going outside, and just like in the Pikmin Bloom ads, you look to your left and you see Pikmin running around. But unlike the Pikmin Bloom ads, you look to your right and you see Evil Incarnate rushing towards you at Mach 5. Another interesting tidbit is that apparently the Water Wraith's rollers are made of the same materials as the meteorites, meaning that the Wraiths have some control over trying to get humans back to PNF 404 and keeping them there. Chet finishes off the log by theorizing that PNF 404 itself is a living organism, and that it's trying to call out to the beings that used to live on it, and whatever happens is under its control. From there, Chet signs off, asking us to create our own hypothesis and share our opinions regarding PNF 404 and what we know about it. And so with that, the logs from the Pikmin Garden website come to an end. Once again, these being written in-universe raises a lot of questions regarding the Pikmin timeline. For example, Olimar has told Chet that he was indeed captured by the Plasm Wraith, an event from Pikmin 3. Yet there are many hints that the events of Pikmin 2 and 3 might take place after Pikmin 4, such as how Olimar describes that the Pikmin 3 title theme is a warning for an unexpected troubles in the future. Overall, for the timeline's sake, my personal theory is that all 4 Pikmin games happen in sequential order, and that Olimar rediscovering the Pikmin in Pikmin 4 was just him losing his memory due to the amount of times he's crashed on this planet. Heck, I even think Hey Pikmin might take place in between Pikmin 3 and 4. Now, Chet did leave off by asking us to create our own hypothesis, so I'll share mine based on what information we have. Basically, humans obviously did exist on Earth, and space exploration was on the rise. Humans were sent out to various planets in entirely different systems, but eventually the humans left on Earth all died to nuclear fallout. As they were dying out, new species began to emerge, such as the Pikmin and a wide variety of predators. The humans on Earth eventually all died out, leaving no one to lead the Pikmin as they suffered the same fate, while the other creatures roamed the rest of the planet. Meanwhile, the humans underwent various mutations as their bodies struggled to survive in space, as well as whatever planets they colonized. The main mutation is their incredible decrease in height, as well as them adapting to what was on the planet they colonized, such as Hokatations adapting a vegetable diet while Kopayats adapted to a fruit diet. Eventually, this created the various races of humans across space from a wide variety of planets, while the planet they all came from would be left alone for presumably 100 generations. And so then, when Olimar first passed by it in Pikmin 1, the force behind Piano 44 is the real reason why he hit the meteorite, crashing down onto the planet and bringing his species back to the planet where they all came from. Now I know this is just some crazy theory that I'm throwing out, and I personally don't want to get all game theory about it, but I just find this all so interesting yet so strange. We have all of this new information about the franchise we love for so long, so I can't help it but to throw my own interpretation about what any of this could mean. Of course, this theory can't be 100% true, as in the end, it's still up to Nintendo to fully piece it together. And plus, there's plenty of inconsistencies in this theory, as it doesn't explain things such as how the house in Hero's Hideaway being so well preserved after a supposed nuclear fallout. But like I said, or more importantly, like Chet said, we all can create our own hypotheses about the history behind PNF 404. And I think that's what Nintendo truly wants us to do. With all this said and done, I think there's still one more interesting detail. Olimar himself has traveled to this planet at least 7 times. Dude, this is your home now.